Heidi ho! Figured I'd leave another message today, a little bit longer. Um, so earlier I left a message about the dating scene and whatnot. So I've been single, like I said, for over 12 years now. Spent a lot of time improving myself, working on my character, um, delving into myself, my own ego, and discovering what it is that I look for in others, and especially when it comes to a relationship. So people are confused with that whole soulmate thing. So you have a soul tribe. The soulmate does not necessarily mean sexual or intimacy in that way. So a soulmate could be two guys who are like brothers. Okay, so that could be your soul tribe, a soulmate. Somebody who actually resonates with you and your beliefs. That's a soulmate. And then when it comes to the opposite gender, that's when you start talking about intimacy and whatnot. So anyway, we have to realize that everything is currency and exchange of energy, and we have to listen to our gut feelings. What some say is a gut feeling. That is our subconscious mind sending us images or messages that keep us from doing things that can cause us issues in life. So um, it kind of reminds me of a few years ago. So a situation came about to where my second to the eldest that I received from Hashem, God, Goddess, Arima, Abba, Mother and Father. Anyway, she got in a position where she needed assistance because she found herself divorced. She got divorced and she has 4 children, so she needed help. And I was in a position, so I'm not materialistic. I can not work for a while to help especially to help my daughters. So I would go to her home and spend some time there, and um, took care of my grandchildren while she was working. And I worked when I had free time to do things without having to take care of the children, and when I wasn't helping her. So I'm kind of I'm a funny individual. There's a lot of things I know how to do, so I can survive. So anyway, I had been single for quite some time, and I started helping Kimmy, and Kimmy had moved into a new complex. And anyway, I ran into a couple females there who, at the time, I hadn't dated for a number of years. So I'm still in that protective mode. But I do know that I got to listen to my gut feeling. So there were 2 females there. One, her name was Gianna, a real sweetheart. Um, and, she was younger, and we communicated and whatnot, but she was a baby doll. She was a sweetheart. And then there was another one, Ambry. And Ambry was also a sweetheart in her own way. I felt an instant like it woke something up in me, a very deep spiritual connection with her. And it was because of her character. But there was something about the situation that was sending up red flags. And it took me a while to realize what it was, because I really stopped kind of trying too much to communicate with her. And our subconscious mind will send us red flags or warnings about situations. And we have to really sit back and try to evaluate what the red flag is. What is it? What is it that my subconscious mind, that gut feeling, is telling me about the situation? So those who follow me for any amount of time or who know me really well know that I'm not a materialistic individual. I hate materialism. I really do. It's not that I despise the carbon-based life form, the atoms themselves. It's what we do with it. So anyway, birds of a feather flock together is something that I've always been told. So people hang around with people that they feel at one with. So kind of like your soul tribe. Now, she was new to the area, and somebody kind of latched themselves onto another female. The other female is the epitome of the woman that I would not spend. I wouldn't waste my time on her because she's materialistic. Um, Her entire life revolves around bragging about, look at what I got, look at what I got, look what I did, look how great of a woman I am. That's a turn on for most men. Don't want to be around women like that. Some men don't care because they'll take advantage as long as they can, you know, do the dirty with them. They don't care. They'll put up with their ignorance and just go home. But someone like myself, I've spent too much time working on myself. I don't want to be around somebody like her. So the sad thing is Ambry may have very well been exactly who my heart felt she was, because she's very sweet, seems to be like quiet. Not that I don't like communicating, but not really like open with her business to everybody. That's the type of female that I like. It's going to keep our relationship between us, not everybody in the world. But when we're hanging around with people who don't mesh with us, so it's like cutting ties and cutting friendships. You can be decent and have a good heart. It doesn't mean that you got to allow somebody to walk all over you or to be like give your time to somebody who goes against your character. If they go against the grain, they're always going to cause issues in your life. So it reminds me of somebody that I used to hang around with, and this guy was just the biggest jackass you have ever met in your entire life. The guy was wicked. Good old Christian boy. Go to church on Sunday, speak Lashon Hara, and try to screw up other people's lives. The, the man was married to a woman who was equally as nasty as him. They love to be involved in other people's relationships, to cause problems in other people's lives. And they were like two giddy school kids. They actually enjoyed. So there's people like that, or sociopaths and psychopaths. They actually enjoy narcissistic traits. They enjoy screwing with other people for nothing more. I mean, literally. And you think there's not wicked in this world. There are people like that who actually get off on seeing somebody else miserable. So if they could destroy a family, they actually enjoy that. So that's why we have to guard our seven gates. But we sometimes have to step back and look at a situation. So in my mind, made the excuse it was because she's younger. And maybe that's why I'm getting the red flag. Because I have dated younger women than myself, much younger. So in their 30s is nothing. At 50 years of age in this body, somebody in their 30s is not an uncommon thing, because I can attract women in their 30s. Actually, I got women in their 20s that are attracted to me, but I draw the line at a certain spot. So anyway, I thought deep down it was because of the age difference. Well, maybe it's like I'm just getting a red flag because of the age difference. But that wasn't it. I didn't step back and actually look. It wasn't her. It was who she was keeping company with. And she was new, like I said, to the complex. So Kimmy moved in, and then almost, I think it was like 6 or 8 months later, Ambry and her daughter moved in, and this other female attached herself to her. So she didn't really know the other female either. So sometimes we have to stop back and look at a situation. Um, and I didn't evaluate it properly. I knew there was a red flag. I just couldn't figure out what the red flag was, and a lot of it was my upbringing. Birds of a feather flock together, and I knew the character because I was married to that character. I wasn't married to that woman, but I was married to that character. That's the woman I divorced, and we fought like cats and dogs. We did not get along because her views in life were entirely backwards from my views in life. And we always had outside influences in the middle of our relationship, and the whole thing. So the red flag for me was I don't want that in my life again. And I know, and there's men like that too. So, like I said, the one guy that I used to hang around with, just being civil and trying to be diplomatic and be a nice guy, but he was a prick, pure and simple prick. Anyway, that's the message. We have to guard our seven gates, but sometimes we also have to step back and truly delve into the situation. Is it the individual, or is it somebody in the individual's vicinity that we're trying to stay away from? That our our ego doesn't want to have to mesh with them. We don't want to have to be around that type of personality or that character. So sometimes it's helpful to step back. And then also, like I said, you have to take time getting to know somebody, truly know what's in their heart and what their life goals are. If their mission is to work. So myself, I know there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. You have to be willing to work on things. And not everybody is willing to do that. Not everybody lives their life that way. But we have to learn to guard our seven gates. Truly look at situations that we're placed in our lives and ask, is it this individual or is it somebody that individual is actually bringing the bad aura into the environment? That's a message. God bless.